everybody. I get a lot of questions around warming up and fundamentals, practicing technique, how to do it, why to do it, how to make it more interesting, that kind of thing. So I thought I'd make some videos about that. So I wanted to start with the most common question I get about this, which is how should you handle warming up and practicing technique, practicing fundamentals in light of the other stuff that I talk about in my work, namely around taking breaks and interleaving your practicing, switching between things. Because most people have a fundamentals regimen that they do, that they'll do like half an hour or an hour or something of their fundamentals. Usually it's a routine that they've been given by their teacher. And the question is, how does this fit into the research saying that you should take breaks, that you should switch between things? So let's talk about that. So the first thing is warming up versus technique, practicing technique. I think it's really important to distinguish between warming up, like literally getting your body warm and ready to play, and practicing to improve your technique. So when you are warming up, you're typically not trying to get better at your warm-ups, you're just trying to get your body warm. So for instance, if you're gonna go for a run, usually people will do stretches or something first to get their body warm. You're typically not trying to get better at those things, you're just trying to get your body ready to go. So with practicing, there are things that we all do to get physically warm and ready to play so we don't hurt ourselves when we actually start to practice. And with those things, because you're not trying to get better at them, you don't need to take a break, you don't need to interleave them because you're not trying to improve your skill. With working on technique, on the other hand, people are generally trying to get better at their technical skills. That's why they're practicing scales and etudes and arpeggios and various technical exercises, technical fundamentals. And if you are trying to get better at those things, you're going to be much better off interleaving them. So rather than doing a big block of technique practice where you practice scales for, however long your teacher has told you, practice scales for 15 minutes, for half an hour, for an hour, or whatever, it's going to be much better if you practice them for a little while, then go do other stuff, then come back and practice your scales again, do some other stuff, come back and practice your scales again, so that you can review the skills that you've learned in your scales. Also, people generally practice scales by starting at the beginning, playing their whole scale, and then going back down, right? And that is not going to make you better at your scale. You need to always ask yourself, okay, what am I trying to get out of this technique practice right now? So let me give an example from me as a string player. So usually when people are in high school and college, they start practicing 3-octave scales. You learn first 1-octave scales when you're a beginner, and then you get more advanced. You learn 2-octave scales and then 3-octave scales. The hardest part of 3-octave scales is the top octave because it's high, it's at the top of the instrument where you haven't played much before, especially when you're new to 3-octave scales. So the top octave is the hardest and the shifts in the top octave are the hardest. So a much better way to practice 3-octave scales is to start right in that top octave. You don't have to practice the bottom octave. You've been playing that since you were, a little kid probably. So start in that top octave and isolate those shifts just like you would in your repertoire. You would isolate difficult shifts and work on just those shifts in the top octave. Maybe you're only going to work on going up on day 1, interleave that with other things. Then come back on day 2. How are your shifts going up? They're great. Okay, good. Now do your shifts going down in that top octave and build it up like you would with your repertoire rather than just playing your scale up and down every day and wondering why it's not getting better. I think we all tend to practice technique kind of mindlessly, like we play through the exercise and that's it. And then we wonder why it's so hard and it's not getting better. It's because we're not isolating the difficulties like we would in our repertoire. It's because we don't have specific goals for our technique. We're just kind of playing it through because we've been given this routine by a teacher or whoever, and we're just playing it rather than actually problem solving and fixing whatever issues are at hand. So I think it's worth sitting down with the technique work that you do and asking yourself, what am I trying to get out of this? Why am I doing this? What is hard about this for me? What am I struggling with? Isolate those issues, interleave them, and then put them in context, just like with a piece of music.